Welcome, everybody. My name is Connie Jacobs, and right now I'm working for Bureau of Land Management. I'm the Colorado Conservation Lands Program Lead. So work with wilderness, wild and scenic rivers a little bit. We don't have any in Colorado, but I've done that in former positions. Conservation areas, national monuments, wilderness study areas, that sort of thing. As far as my background, I've got a lot of education and interpretation background, and also working in areas of national monument status with National Scenic and Historic Trails, the Nez Perce Trail, the California National Historic Trail. And so all of those categories are kind of under the envelope of national conservation lands within BLM. The medical side of things, I'm not a doctor. This is a disclaimer. I'm not an official EMT anymore, but I was a volunteer EMT for just a little over 20 years throughout my life. At one time, I was IV and IO certified. And so I've seen a lot of things over the years, volunteering on an ambulance in a very rural and remote area of Montana. And I've also enjoyed a lot of backcountry hiking and river trips myself, and seen a lot of good stuff along the way. But the whole point of this program is not for me to talk and just tell you things. I want this to be real participatory. I want us to kind of have conversation, and the ultimate goal here is for all of us to kind of share things that we have as tips or tricks, things that we kind of go over for basics before we go in the field. But at the end of the program, I've got quite an exhaustive list of various videos I've kind of researched since we started putting this program together, but then also discuss some kind of unique items I've come across that I'd like to share with you that I'll probably have in my kit now going forward. And Ellie's got a story to share as well on that. So as I was building this program, I wanted to talk a little more about, before you even get out there, that's basically the most important part of going on a trip is the planning that goes behind it. Not only knowing what kind of trip you're going on, are you going to take a big kit? Is it minimalist? We want to look at some real common emergencies that do happen. We'll probably just sit down and take a minute to list those items. And then at the end of this, the goal is that we all have one thing that we want to really take into the backcountry with us by the end of the program. So before or during your trip, we've got kind of a short list of things we need to do. There's about 5 items really that we need to consider. And that's starting with prior planning or know before you go. We want to follow through with plans. You want to stick to your plans, who, what, when, and where. That's a primary component of safety. I know people that actually do that, have a list, and I know one person who actually kept that list either on a prominent part in their kitchen or actually on their bed before they left, so that if they didn't come back and didn't make their timelines, that people would go to their apartment, pull that list out, and find out what their progress may have been to start searching. I know people who have been that mindful of that. You want to practice that mindset of self-protection. Are you going to have protection from two-leggeds, which sometimes people are great and sometimes they're not? And then what kind of area are you going into? Are there grizzly bears? Are there poisonous snakes down in the southeast? I guess I should have, for snakes and things, put no-legged. But you're always going to have that mindset of self-protection, and that goes into your kit, but it also, you carry it with you up here in your mind. Communications, practice using those. Either it's a cell phone. Do you know where you're going? Is it going to have coverage? Do you have a satellite phone or an inReach, a messenger, a spot tracker, a Zoleo? All of these sorts of things. And I've actually been able to prove the case in point. You really should practice before you need them, where we've been out and people didn't know how to use equipment and we got kind of into a tight spot, but ended up being okay. So if you've got the equipment, at least watch videos and practice going through things. And that's all part of that prior planning. The next one in the steps of before and during your trip, you want to get in the habit of that mental modeling. Think about where you're going. Is it going to be rocky terrain? Is there opportunity for, either illnesses or injury? You have water filtering needs or things to take with you that are specific to that area. If you're going to be thinking about or planning a trip through that area, you want to definitely think about the actions that are going to go along with each day, each segment, all of those ideas that come along. And then if you have a medical emergency in that area, are you going to be able to get someone out? How are you going to work through that mentally? If you're at camp, practice your little scenarios, at least in your own mind, or maybe even as a group, if you're in with a group, for where the best exit would be in the event of a wildfire or in the event of an animal. Where's the safest place to pitch the tent? Will there be high winds with potential tree blowdown? That sort of thing. And so these are just the steps to have as you start preparing ahead of time. And then also that situational awareness, key to safety, and really a key to enjoying your time. A lot of this happens before you even make it out the door. You're going to take the appropriate clothing, and then always, always, always when you're out, listen to your gut and follow your intuition. There's many times I've talked to people that say, I kind of thought about it and I probably shouldn't have done that. And then I dismissed it. And then I went and did it and I got hurt, or my friend got hurt, or we got into a pretty tough situation, or got into something over our heads. So this mental model, I actually have been out with people who actually do not have a very good loop here. So with a mental model, you kind of go through what you believe is going to occur. Then you come down and kind of create those expectations. You're kind of considering your decisions you're going to make along the way, then predictions. But then when you go out and the reality happens, it's kind of going to hopefully come back and give you that new information that when you have that model to go out the next time, you actually either perform things differently or, have a different basis for making those mental models. But I've been out, I don't know about you folks, if you've ever been out with someone who actually does not have a very good mental loop, where when they're out and reality happens, the next time they go out, they don't apply that new knowledge. I don't know, has anyone ever been out with someone like that before? It's just, it's dangerous and a little surprising to me that some people just don't even take in that new information. They're so sure about what they're doing. And it's kind of a challenge to be out and hiking and working with someone like that. And then the second to last step here is proper equipment. You're going to take appropriate gear for the right time of year, the place, learning again how to use your equipment before you go, and the health of everyone on the trip. Are people you're hiking with taking personal meds? Are you aware of their medical needs before we even get into trouble? You're going to be looking at personal protection, could be sunscreen, could be bear spray, understanding how to signal, get help, knowing about a recovery method. If someone's really in trouble, do you need to kind of do that mental modeling of understanding when to stay and help take care of a situation, or knowing, especially if you're only hiking with one other person, is there a time when you're going to encounter a situation where it's better to leave them and get to a place where you can signal for help or go retrieve help? And therefore that person, are they able to stay and take care of themselves? What's the situation there? So there's a lot of things to think through before you go. And a lot of people sometimes may think that vehicles are the safest place. Maybe in a lightning storm they might be, but certainly not in a flood or flooding conditions, or sometimes winter conditions, if you should even drive down that road. to get started and get yourself one extra mile down the trail. So just a lot of things to think about under the equipment category here. And then also knowing where you are. So this takes a lot of practice. In the olden days, before there was GPS and all of these things, very few people that I encountered actually knew or used a compass. I still do. I actually broke mine recently, so now I got to go get another one. But I still use and bring a compass, even though I have now a GPS unit. It's just always good to double up on things. I think the phrase is 2 is 1 and 1 is none, such that if you have doubles of things or backups of things, if something goes awry, something breaks, you at least have your backup as an option. If you only take one thing, only one GPS, and say your batteries go or drop it in the river and it goes away, then you're finding yourself out without a place or a way to signal for help. So I always kind of remember looking at compass videos, practicing my compass skills out kind of in the field behind the house, practicing waypoints, a back azimuth, we used to call it, or an emergency azimuth. And that's knowing how to get back to where you came from. Just carrying your map, compass, extra batteries. A lot of this is, trust me, common sense, but you'd be surprised the number of times I've been in the field with people who don't have half of the things that occur on this 1 through 5. And then one thing that I learned the hard way is that second to the last bullet. I had been hiking in somewhere, had not taken the time to look back behind myself on occasion. And when I needed to hike back out and I didn't have my equipment, I was actually more lost coming out than I was going in, because the view was completely different and I did not prepare myself for that. So I actually took quite a bit of time getting out of that situation. It ended fine, but there are times when you may encounter a storm coming or different weather, different events that you really do need to be adequately prepared for. So as you're hiking in, one tip I've started doing is about every 3 to 5 minutes is stopping, or if I cross a big feature, turning around and identifying how that feature looks. If I'm going to be coming back out that way, or even if I'm not, I still want to use that as an emergency option if I need to go back out for someone else's safety. So, and then all of this, of course, goes back into the item number 1 and that pre-trip planning. So these are kind of real basics that you need before you even start building your first aid kit, really. So there's times when we did not consider the weather. I've got an example of going into the Bob Marshall. We ended up having a terrible forecast for rain, and it ended up raining 6 out of 7 days while we were in there. And the stream almost rose up into our camp. We had to move camp up a bit. And then we had to change our hikes that we had planned because some of the stream crossings became impassable. But we actually stopped those hikes before we crossed the streams when they were lower. Had we gone ahead and gone forward with that, the later in the day, we would have come back across and met a stream that likely would have been very unsafe to cross. So understand that you've got to make changes while you're out there. And you may have your goals in mind. You may have, a place that you really want to get to see, but understand that common sense has to prevail, and trip planning and knowing that these stream crossings would have been difficult with higher water is what basically stopped our group from getting into a bad situation. So does anyone else have any tips or tricks kind of about any of these steps before I move on?
Connie, we did get one question about your comment earlier on. Thomas asked, what is an example of someone not using new knowledge?
Oh my, I've met some stubborn people. I mean, they just, I don't know if it's a trait that they have where they get, I don't know, the term I use is bullheaded, where they literally just refuse to think that that was a true or a real impact. And what it did is, we were in a situation and it impacted a lot of people, but the next time out, they were just insistent that, that was a fluke and it would never happen again. And so I don't need to change anything that I did. And so it kind of made me question whether I wanted to hike with that person again. But, and I've encountered people like that. It's just, I think if you're going to go out and hike with people that are new to you, maybe start small, start with day trips and little things before you kind of get in pretty deep. But that person was about as, I don't know if the word is stubborn, or bullheaded as you could imagine. And ultimately I just decided not to hike with him anymore. I just felt it was not very safe, because they continued to go in areas regardless of the weather, regardless of situations. And it was, I kind of wanted to look at things a little differently, maybe not get up to the top of the ridge when the storms come through in the middle of the day, when the lightning comes through, things like that. So I don't know. Does that answer your question, Thomas?
He raised his hand. So Thomas, go ahead and let us know.
Yeah, you said speak up whenever. So I just also wanted to throw in here to be cautious of routine. One time I was doing research for the university, Oregon State University, and every day I was doing long transects using my compass. And one day I got way far out and I just happened to pick my compass up and look at it the wrong 180 degrees backwards.
Oh, wow.
And I kept following that until about an hour later, I realized I was going the wrong direction. And so I just wanted to caution everybody to beware of your routines, because sometimes the brain sees things a little differently.
And that's an excellent tip, Thomas. Thank you for that. I've found in the past, if I'm hungry, I make very poor decisions. I don't know if that's happened to anyone. And then years ago, I suffered from migraines at times. And when I thought everything was fine, on rare occasions, I would find myself out at, alone, working in the field, and a migraine would come. And yes, I had meds and things like that, but they took time to work. And I actually got in a situation where I walked around it wasn't quite a mountain, but it was a big hill with a field on it, because I wouldn't sit down and take the time to gather my thoughts, get a bite, let the medicine work. And I kind of did that same thing. I got really used to, well, I can always just push through it. I can always go do this. Well, I looped that meadow on that field. I think it was 4 times, might've been 5, before I finally sat down. Took a few minutes to kind of think about what I'd been doing. And in about 20 minutes, kind of got my senses about me when I finally started looking at my maps and things. And then I was able to go find the vehicle, but I was really turned around for quite some time. So that's a really good point, Thomas. And yeah, appreciate that. So just real quick, this is a picture of the Handy's Peak Wilderness Area. This is a BLM unit. And I have not been in there before, but it's on my list of things to do. So just a nice little visual. So I just wanted to review a few things here. And if everyone can chime in, raise their hand, or just go ahead. Let's go down the medical list. What are some medical events that can happen when you're out in the backcountry?
We have hypothermia.
Excellent. That's one of them.
Dehydration.
Yes.
Cuts.
What was the last one, Ellie?
Cuts. Cuts.
Yep.
Heat illnesses.
Yes.
Diabetes issues.
Excellent. That's on my list too. Did anyone get poison ivy or poison oak?
Not yet, but we have slips, trips, and falls, and those
Wonderful.
could lead to broken bones.
Yeah,
and then
that would
have
be on the
animal.
traumatic side. Yes.
Okay, and then we have animal attack.
Okay, bees, bee stings, bites, bear encounter, all kinds of things. Actually put moose on that list, and a cow moose with calves just go away. They're pretty mean. On my medical list, I've also, because I've started hiking a lot in Colorado, I've encountered altitude sickness, first time in my life. And so that's also something to consider. And something I never knew about here was a can of oxygen. They sell them in the grocery stores here. And At first I saw that and thought it was kind of funny, but then I ended up using it and it saved me from a very bad night of, terrible altitude sickness with the headache, the nausea, the almost vomiting, can't sleep, just really kind of messes you up. So, and I also have on this list food poisoning. If people have been out and maybe their food stash is getting kind of skinny, or they didn't pack the right amount of food, or I've actually been out on a canoe trip where someone who didn't understand their plants and the plant families, they actually told some guy that they knew that that was edible. And the other guy goes, oh, okay. So he ate some. And in the middle of the night, he woke up staggering around camp, vomiting, and had a terrible food reaction to eating. It was actually a toxic food. And the next day we kind of identified that, and he was in enough of a condition that we got him out the next day. But had it gotten worse than that, we would have had to call in help. So for traumatic injuries, yes, we've already got cuts, abrasions. Don't forget the subsequent infection that you can get with that. Do we have any other trauma type things that happen when you're out in the backcountry?
We had broken bones listed, an animal attack.
Yep. Slips, trips, and falls, I think, was already noted.
Yep.
Head injuries from a fall. Who's ever fallen and hit your head on a rock near the trail, or you've fallen off of something? People can fall even as high as 6 feet and still have a pretty bad head injury. Burns from camping equipment, from your stove or a fire. If the sap in a branch bursts, excuse me. And then we've got eye injuries. A lot of times I wear sunglasses until the end of the day, when I almost don't need them anymore if I'm still hiking, because I've hit my eyes on branches so many times and had scratched my eye that, I wear sunglasses not just for the sun anymore. So that's another option there. So first aid kits, finally getting there. Does your first aid kit come into play before, during, or after your trip? What do you think? It actually should be all three. So you're going to plan before, take the appropriate items before you go out. While you're on your trip, you're going to be showing that to others or using it for others. And then after your trip, what's one of the most important things you're going to do with your kit? Any takers?
Restock. We have one answer
Yay,
coming in.
all right.
Yep, another restock.
Yep. So you don't ever want to head back out without restocking. And then does your kit vary for every trip you do?
We had one answer from before that said restock and reassess. So I think that's
there we go.
Right on there.
Yep. And then how many in the program here have shown your first aid kit to others before you go out, or communicated, hey, I've got EpiPens with me, in case anyone needs them, or technically I'm allergic to bees, and, or something else, and I might need them. Has anyone ever done that?
Oh, we got one. Yep. Let's see, Kurt, we got a couple other people raising their hands.
Excellent.
And one said yesterday.
Oh, yay. All right. And remember, when you show people your first aid kit and a little bit about it, doesn't have to be a lecture. You might be the one that needs your first aid kit, because if something happens to you, your friends can then go to your backpack. Maybe your kit's the best one of the group. I know a lot of people used to let me carry a lot of things on my back, and they would kind of show up with not very much or almost nothing at all. They're like, oh, Connie's got it. And so you might be the one that needs it. And if you've, had a situation where you're out of it, you're, on a sugar low or something, maybe they can get into your kit and help you too. So that's an excellent response. So what I would like to do here is we're going to just look at a whiteboard here, and I want everyone to kind of think about their first aid kits right now, stuff that you carry in them. And what I'd like to do is on the whiteboard, go ahead and add a text box or type 1 to 2 items that you carry that you think are pretty, well, basically imperative. Could be something for you. It could be something for others in the group. I hike with dogs a lot. It might be something for my dogs, and oftentimes people medicine can be used for dogs, but not all the time. But yeah, go ahead and enter some things on there. Ibuprofen. Excellent. I have someone else calls it vitamin I. I know someone who's allergic to ibuprofen. So trauma dressing, water filter. Oh, excellent. Tourniquet, good. Tiger balm.
We have one in the chat that says plain old water.
Yep. Just regular water, not with a lot of that powder in it. That if you ever do use those electrolyte things, they always say to dilute them at least 50%. So you don't actually tax your body even more to use the product. And then what's that one up in the corner? I can't read it. Drugs.
Drugs can't be improvised like Benadryl.
Yeah, that's true. Trauma dressing. Excellent.
We have the one about something for sore muscles.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, but it is comforting, such as Tiger Balm, or it's moving around now, Sauroderm.
In some places, you want to watch the products you're going to use, and if you're in bear country, so you want to be aware. Though, thank you for moving the paper tape. I added that because that's actually incredible stuff. Space blanket, water filter, duct tape for blisters. Excellent. I've actually been out hunting and someone didn't bring anything for blisters and it stopped everything. And it was about 8 degrees out. We ended up having to improvise for some blister control to get out and get back to the vehicle before too late in the day. Tourniquet.
Connie, we also have one from the chat that says snacks.
Snacks, yes. Because when you're tired, you're not going to make good decisions. And I've learned that the hard way. So yeah, if anyone has any more items, just go ahead and put them on there. Did anyone add, on my notes, I was thinking people would probably put either personal meds, and that could be anything from, something that they need to maintain a medical condition, but they still go out and hike. And then instant messenger. Originally, I thought I'd have to exclude that. Is there anything that, what's needle? What's that?
One at the top left is snake kit.
Oh, a snake kit. There's the jury is out on how effective those are. And as EMTs in areas with a lot of rattlesnake bites, and then I imagine if you're in the Southeast, you've got copperhead and water moccasins down there. So that's the debate is still out on those kits. I guess when in doubt, it doesn't hurt. So you're going to look at keeping the extremity or where the bite was below the heart if possible. Maybe restrict the blood flow, but not as much as with a tourniquet. And then keep that person at rest. If they need to hike out, it's going to distribute that venom throughout their body. And it's surprising how people react. We've had older people get bit by rattlesnakes that did fine, ended up just needing supporting care. We were on one call with a young woman who was fishing down by the river. A rattlesnake bit her in the ankle. She was, I think, not even 30 years old. And she needed 5 vials of antivenom to come through that. A perfectly healthy young person. And the older person with a heart attack scenario, you would think, actually did quite well. So we can't make assumptions that way. So the snake kit is good, but you want to have a plan B as well. And that's keeping that person calm and sending others for help or hitting your messenger and getting them out as soon as possible. Sam splint. Yes. Excellent. And what's the one in the green box? Something fine tip tweezers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Excellent. I've got another one that weighs almost nothing, is a tick key. I don't know if anyone has ever seen one of those. It's a distinct shape and it's made with a fatter end that slips down over a tick in case it's bloated. And that cinches down, comes down to a point, and you can actually catch that tick by the head and pull it out slowly without leaving the head and also getting full extraction. It's a good idea to save the tick if you can. I know that sounds goofy, but once you've been bit, if you save that tick, they could possibly check for any diseases it's carrying. And they're actually now testing dogs for tick diseases in addition to humans. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, these are some really good, I'm seeing Benadryl, excellent. Aspirin, Benadryl, especially in tablet form, is light, and that's multi-purpose. And I've got one of the videos at the end of this program talks about it's an actual doctor who builds his own little first aid kits, and I hope you watch that video. And he talks about trying to find things that have more than one purpose. So the Benadryl helps when you've got some sort of sickness, you can't sleep. It can also help with those antihistamine reactions that you need to control. And so you're always looking for duplicate items, or duplicity, pardon me, in the items that you bring. And so one thing, and this is, I think, we'll just go ahead and close the whiteboard for now.
I do want to say we had one more in the chat.
Okay.
Promote climbing rope for emergency care out if I can take the extra weight in.
Yeah, that's excellent. And remember, if you're going for more than just yourself, that's you can always split your gear. So this one is new to me, and it has to do with that chicken on the very first picture. And as I was talking to Ellie, as we were starting to talk about this program, I found out that Ellie also had an experience with this one product, and I wanted to share it with everybody. And it's been fascinating for me to start reading about. And the chicken's name is Fanny Sue. There's a funny story there, but and no, it's not a country western song. So Fanny Sue was a chicken of mine. I've got chickens in the backyard, but I also live right along open space. And almost every night, I've either got raccoons, fox, coyote, or what have you in my backyard trying to eat my chickens. And one day a fox came in the yard and actually got a hold of one of my chickens. And my dog ran out the door and barked and scared the fox so much it actually dropped the chicken as it left. And I didn't think she was going to make it. She was pretty much a goner. But I'm always hopeful. So I brought her in and put her in a dark place, in her own room, and she was having trouble breathing. She had terrible puncture marks all down her back, lacerations on her body. And so I thought, well, if I need to, I can let her go, but I'm going to give her a chance. And so while I was talking to a coworker, I had someone share a product with me. But before I get going on that, I want Ellie to share a little bit about your hands and why that picture's up there.
I ended up with this subtype of staph on my hands, and I was given major antibiotics for it because I got a puncture mark, and then the staph was going inside my skin, and I had some weird reaction to all of those antibiotics. I got a butt shot. I had to take them orally. I had to bathe in it, and the skin on my hands became highly sensitized, and the skin was just extremely inflamed, very red, and then it was starting to peel off.
And Ellie, what did you end up doing with your hands?
I contacted a holistic doctor, and that person suggested a cure that was something I also had never heard of, and it was Manuka honey.
Can you all see that slide there?
Sorry, sorry.
Yeah, Manuka honey. While I was kind of worried about my chicken, I was talking to a coworker actually, and she suggested Manuka honey. And I said, what are you talking about? And it turns out it's a type of honey made in Australia or New Zealand. And the bees pollinate the native, well, it's related to tea tree. It's a different species, but Leptospermum scoparium. And Ellie was great in catching a little mistake I made. I called it tea tree, but it is in fact not the same as tea tree. There's a number of different species, and I've got information about that in the links at the end. And this product has a lot of really unique properties. So before we go any further, look at the difference in Ellie's hands. I mean, how long did that take, Ellie, to?
I was a wilderness ranger when it had started happening. And I gave the doctor, I said, I have a deadline. I'm going out into the woods in 3 weeks. It's like, okay. And so in 3 weeks, or maybe less, between 2 and 3 weeks, my hands had peeled off and new skin came back and zero issues whatsoever.
Wow. And the same thing for my chicken. My friend recommended it. So I went down to the health food store, found some honey, Manuka honey. I really wasn't aware of what it was or the properties, but I just bought what they had. And I actually applied that to her puncture wounds down her back. Imagine a fox grabbing the chicken and picking it up. And literally overnight, she started improving. And within 3 weeks, she literally not only had no scars, the skin healed, it had no infection, but she started laying again in 3 weeks, laying eggs. It was pretty impressive. I've got little notes down there as disclaimers. Remember, if you're in bear country, you don't want to slather this on all over the place and then just go sleep out at night. So you're going to want to either cover it, you want to use it judiciously, understand where you're at. You want to be careful using this product if someone's allergic to bees. They do wonder if people may have an allergic reaction because it's made by bees. If you use a lot of this, it could raise blood sugar, but I say when in doubt, for someone in a diabetic emergency, give them this. They could have some sugar, and it's also healthful. And it's also the interactions with chemotherapy drugs, probably not a need to know for hiking, but you never know. A lot of people are cancer survivors. So if they're still doing chemo or getting out a little bit, it might not be good for them. But there's things that you got to learn about Manuka honey that before you use it, that I've learned since I've gotten some. Rule number one, is keep it covered. It's sticky. Not all same Manuka honey is the same. And the MGO levels on the honey, and we're going to look at that a little bit more on the next slide here. So the properties of Manuka honey, you can see these arrows. This one has 1200 MGO and 25, I think it's UPF. We've got a list here, pardon me, NPA, ULF. And so the different strengths of Manuka honey kind of indicate what it's going to be good for. You've got either skin care, well-being, then you've got a low-grade medicinal for sore throat, coughs, flu. I've actually used this in my tea when I felt I've had something coming on, and it's the next day I've been fine. So far, so good, knock on wood. And then medical strength, the medical community is starting to use Manuka honey more for deep infections, ulcers, deep wounds, and also burns. And so this is like one little product I can bring in one of those little vials that you can uncap and add. It used to be bag balm is what I brought. And then I stopped bag balm and brought little, antibiotic pouches. But I think this Manuka honey has so many different ways that you can use it that I find it's going to be in my kit going forward. So can you all see that MGO number? All the way up to 2100. Depending on which one of these levels you're going to buy, the price of this product will change. So understand that it's not a cheap honey that you typically buy on the grocery store shelf. But yeah, I've got links in the final slides about Manuka honey. Take a look at that information and see if it's something that'll work for you. I've been pretty surprised, and I think folks are starting to learn a lot about it. I'm not going to go through all these videos, but my goal with these was really to cover a lot of the topics that if I could have fit into 50 minutes, I would have. I've got everything from, building basic first aid kits, some blister care, some basic wilderness injuries and prevention tips, improvising. Sometimes you don't have everything you need to take care of something. So I've got a lot of different videos here, maybe not necessarily in order, but please take a look at these. Basic map and compass. I think Mo was new. She had not been out much. So these are going to be great for a beginner. How to know the difference between a GPS and a satellite communicator. And then here's a tip for burns, although my Manuka honey, I used to actually just cut off a piece of aloe leaf and and hike with that in a little Ziploc bag in my pack. And I would hang it up with my food at night and that sort of thing. But, I've had people get burns while we've been in camp. And I usually just pull out that aloe leaf and put it on there, and you can't imagine what that would do. But I'm now going to replace that aloe leaf with Manuka honey because it won't expire as much. And then I want to throw this last kit here, or last suggestion here about building kits and understanding latex allergies. I'm latex allergic, and I now have to have EpiPens because the last time I ate a banana, my throat swelled shut. And I haven't had one since. I got exposed to latex on the ambulance by wearing latex gloves, latex tubing. This was years ago, before they've come out with nitrile gloves. So if you are going into the backcountry with people, I will no longer allow people to take care of my food because I've had emergencies based on people saying, oh, no, it's fine, you can eat it. So the last comment I've got for folks, in addition to that Manuka honey, understand who you're going with and what their needs are. And if you've got someone with latex allergies, you need to understand that when you've got a latex allergy, Band-Aids have latex in them. Coflex or Vet Wrap has latex in it. There's a million products out there that still have latex. Don't put latex gloves in your kit. Please use nitrile. And so consider that almost 18% of healthcare workers are allergic to latex, and oftentimes it's anaphylactic. If you think about someone with a peanut allergy, where they eat that peanut, suddenly they can't breathe, it's something like that. And so you're looking at, does anyone in your group have epinephrine with you? Do you need to do a rapid evacuation? So again, just a lot of different tips and tricks in these slides. But I think, Ellie, after this, Manuka honey's my go-to for a lot of good stuff. And I hope you folks enjoyed that tip. I know there's a lot to cover. Just please go back and look at these links. I think you'll find some good information in these. I learned a lot too.